Hey everyone, this video is part 2 of my trip to the Hudson Valley. And oh, do I want to go back to those warmer moments, because as I'm putting this video together this week in January, these are the images from New York City. Cold, windy, snow, ice. Yep, this sidewalk right here, as you see, is all covered in ice. So if you are a kid, this is awesome. But for adults who need to go to work, school, groceries, shoveling, I'm not a fan. So I have about 4 or 5 more videos to share with you, which I recorded in 2023. And then as we fully embrace the new year, I slowly began recording new locations, and I have few ideas for this channel going forward. For instance, my thoughts on things that are just amazing about this city, or things that are, well, pretty terrible. Maybe few videos on my own thoughts in terms of education, since this is the career path I have chosen for myself and advice for it, or even my own personal journey in becoming a professor, so that this channel does become a little bit more personal. So all these ideas I will definitely consider this year. The other thing is that the first few videos were really me trying to learn how to make videos for YouTube. And so, like I mentioned in few places already, I am really sorry about some of the fuzzy or distorted frames, but I think I'm slowly getting there. But of course, the main point of this channel will be visiting more locations and briefly exploring their history. And so I hope you all will enjoy this channel and what I will have to offer in the future. So let's go back to the Hudson Valley, and in my last video I showed you Bear Mountain and things like Fort Montgomery. So now let's cross the Bear Mountain Bridge and drive further north about 12 miles, and we will come to an oasis of calm and beauty, a small village of Cold Spring, located on the Hudson River. The center of the village is really Main Street, on which you find many small shops where you can buy locally produced items, an antique store, toys, of course restaurants, pizza, and the most important item on my list, coffee. Not only is it a lovely atmosphere, but also those of you who are interested in, for example, architecture can find many colonial and Victorian style homes here. Like this one, built in 1875. During COVID, and in the last few years, many people from New York City moved to these parts of New York. Well, there's a train going straight to Grand Central Station in Manhattan, and the ride, I'm guessing, is probably about an hour and 30 minutes or so. So if nothing goes wrong, it's actually not that tremendously far away. In fact, even now when I was filming this, I got into a conversation with a person, and it turned out they just moved from Brooklyn recently here. So a simple hi, how are you, turned into a 20-minute conversation about Brooklyn. Ha! Nice. The other thing that caught my eye is the 9/11 memorial. You know, this is that one thing you really notice in New York City as you travel, the impact that the terrorist attacks had on the city itself and how many people lost their lives as the Twin Towers fell. You go to any town or community, and the chances are you will find in most of them some sort of a memorial, a street name, a square, something to remember the people from that community that lost their lives. And the magnitude of that is enormous. And certainly it's a day I still remember, as I already entered high school at that point. Here is Metro North train, which you can take all the way to New York City. However, if we go underneath the tracks, the village continues on the other side with gorgeous views of the Hudson River, Storm King Mountain, West Point. It's here that you can relax, enjoy the scenic views, and soak in the fresh air. This cannon that you see right here is the Parrot gun. More on this in just a second. And over there is the Hudson House, a hotel which opened its doors in 1832. Now let's drive up at just a short distance to the edge of Cold Spring, where we have the West Point Foundry Preserve. Not long after gaining independence, the United States fought the War of 1812 against Britain. America was in no way able to match the power of Britain at that time, therefore it fought indirectly by invading Canada, which ended unsuccessfully, and the British reinforced their numbers and pushed into the United States, even at one point burning down the White House. The building, the White House that you see today, was reconstructed after that war. During the War of 1812, the President of the United States was James Madison, and after the war, he, among with others, realized the importance of artillery and other modern weapons which the United States simply lacked. Therefore, 4 sites were chosen for foundries, essentially metal-producing factories, to be built, and this was one of those locations. It had a fantastic location with natural resources in the region. The Hudson River would act as a sort of highway delivering goods to New York City. And across the Hudson was West Point, a military academy which would provide protection in case one was needed. Today, we only see the remains of what used to be. However, at its height, it employed more than 1,000 people, and it was tremendously important during the Civil War. In fact, one of the reasons the northern states had an edge over the southern states. It was especially important because it produced the Parrott gun, which we saw earlier standing on the edge of the Hudson River in Cold Spring. It was named after its inventor, Robert Parrott, who actually graduated from West Point and in the Civil War reached the rank of captain fighting in the 3rd Regiment of Artillery. In fact, on one of these information posters, I actually learned something myself that day. Not only did it produce an enormous amount of cannons and shells, projectiles, but it also produced parts for both USS Monitor and Merrimack, as they were really the first ironclad ships to fight against one another in the Civil War, hence really signaling a new age of naval fighting and shipbuilding. They were powered by steam and protected by iron, and later ships will be protected by steel as well. And the significance was not only limited to the military, it also produced parts of commercial ships and even the first real passenger train in the United States, as you see right here, called Best Friend or Best Friend of Charleston, which you're looking at is a replica, but the origins are also here in West Point Foundry. And it also produced lots and lots of cast iron piping for the water supply system of New York City. Therefore, the significance of this place about 150 years ago cannot be understated. Here we have the office building, which is still mostly intact. Here is a portion of a wheel from a boring mill. So in this location, They would enlarge holes or smooth the surface of materials, for example. However, this wheel was inside a 2-story building, and this is the exact location where this building stood. Like with all things, nothing lasts forever, and so this place closed in 1911. For a few reasons, but the big one really was the fact that steel began to replace iron going into the 20th century. As we leave the Hudson Valley and come back to New York City, I like to usually travel down Route 9, as there is so much to explore here and show you. For instance, I stopped here in Peekskill. And you get to grab some food if at this point you are starving like myself, and just enjoy the beautiful views along the river. But also here you get a peek even at Indian Point, which was the closest nuclear power plant to New York City, only about 35 miles away. It operated since the early 1960s, I believe, and it actually shut down pretty recently in 2021, so it no longer supplies energy. I hope you enjoyed this second part of my trip and the video in general. Again, if you like what you see, please subscribe. Come back next Sunday as we will explore another location. In the meantime, I set up an Instagram account, and 1 or 2 days before Sunday, I will always post a photo from the next location I will visit. So if anyone would like to play like a guessing game and see if they can guess which location I will do next, well, you can have some fun with that. And so, till next time, stay safe out there.